So here's how you could go about setting up Disputifier with your Shopify store. I'm going to be using this store. It's a test store, a demo store. It's not even live. But again, it will show you or give you a better idea of how you could go about integrating Disputifier in your Shopify store. This can be for a drop shipping store, for your brand, or any other Shopify. If you're selling digital goods on Shopify, if you're a subscription-based product on Shopify, irrespective of the processor that you're using, whether it's Shopify Payments or if it's Stripe, NMI, Authorize.net, or you name it, Disputifier can technically integrate with any and everything, right? So you're going to go about basically going into the apps section here, and you search for Disputifier in the apps section of Shopify. Disputifier. Okay. And that's basically it. So it says free plan available. And that's true. It's a free plan. There's no monthly subscriptions. There's no sign up fee. There's no setup cost or anything else of that sort. It's pay as you go. And predominantly works on, on a model that it's for alerts. So you pay per alert, and it's a certain percentage that you have to pay for any chargeback that's won. So in other words, unlike any other service provider there, you're not paying for losses. You're not paying an employee a monthly wage or an hourly wage or anything else of that sort. You pay if Disputifier shows you results. So once you've opened this up, you click on install, right? And you'll be taken to another page, which is the app. You click on install again. And again, bear in mind, Disputifier is one of the first apps for chargeback and dispute management on Shopify. So you get taken to this onboarding page. You can actually enter your email address. So I'm going to actually put in test@test.com. For this purpose. Where did you hear? Did you hear from a friend? Most of you all come through friends, referrals, or maybe even TikTok or YouTube ads that you see across the board, right? So for this one, I'm actually going to select App Store. You can actually go ahead and add in your phone number here. This could be WhatsApp, or you could actually use Telegram as well. And the reason why this would probably be necessary is if there's any issues in terms of, coverage. If Disputifier cannot reach out to you by email, they would obviously reach out to you through WhatsApp or through your Telegram itself, right? But you could obviously leave this blank. Not necessarily recommended, but because this is a test environment, I'm not going to be adding in anything here. Click on continue. You actually get to choose what payment processor you're using. So if it's Shopify or Shopify Payments, you get to choose Shopify Payments. If it's Stripe, Klarna, et cetera, you could actually select there. If for any reason you don't see your payment processor here, you could actually, you could just select this and add your processor later on. But since I'm using Shopify Payments here, I go ahead and select that. If there's a CRM other than Shopify that you're using, maybe something like Checkout Champ, maybe something like BigCommerce, WooCommerce, Sticky.io, Phoenix, FMJ, or any other CRM, you could actually select that there and then click on continue. Now, this is basically where you get to choose the features. So fully automated means Disputifier responding to your chargebacks, that come through as well. Not only providing you with alert services, but obviously responding to those chargebacks. And as I mentioned in the start, it's 20% of the recovered revenue that they generally charge for a one chargeback. Now, question here is that if you've got chargeback alerts, why would you actually go ahead and opt for chargeback responses? Well, chargeback alerts, when all of them are fully activated, Disputifier provides you with about a 90 to 95% coverage across the board, right? Which means 5 to 10% would still slip through. What are those 5 to 10%? Those are tokenized transactions, such as Apple Pay, Google Pay, Shop Pay, Klarna, for instance, or even like PayPal wallet, for instance, at the moment, there's not sufficient enough coverage for that. So you're going to see a certain amount slip through. And the reason why that happens is because that doesn't necessarily, those transactions don't necessarily tie to a card, right? So even like the customer would basically go to your checkout page, they would actually place an order using an email address that is associated with their Google Pay account, that's associated with their Shop Pay account or their Klarna account, for instance. It's not going to be them having to go into your checkout and physically having to put in a card number in place, right? So that's where you would probably see a comparatively lower coverage. and those are the chargebacks that do slip through, and those are the chargebacks that Disputifier would actually respond to you. On average, you're looking at about a 50 to 80% of a win ratio. That would depend on the reason for the chargeback. I would obviously dive into that a little bit further in the next few videos on where exactly you can actually see Disputifier drop off in terms of win ratio coverage. And then, obviously, if you're somebody that's got something that's in-house, you feel that your team is doing a pretty good job in terms of responding to chargebacks, you could obviously select this option. But I'm going to go for this option here and click on continue. Here's where you'll be able to select what sort of a product you're selling. So if it's a physical product, if it's a subscription-based product, you could obviously have a physical product that's a subscription-based product, and then you get to choose the the type of the subscription that you're offering. On the other hand, you can also go ahead and choose a digital product, or if you're a merchant that's selling services, right? So you're probably leveraging, you're probably doing ads or creating ads for a certain merchant. But on the other hand, what you're doing is you're keeping Shopify as your CRM to keep a track record of that. You could obviously select that. But in this situation, I'm going to be selecting physical product here. Click on continue. And then these are the services that Disputifier has to offer. Number one is obviously chargeback alerts. I'll dive into this on the next page of what exactly chargeback alerts are, how you could benefit from them, and what you could obviously benefit here, or how Disputifier can actually protect your store. The next is fraud protection. So Disputifier offers fraud protection. I know Shopify offers a native feature as well. Quite frankly, it's not as robust as what Disputifier has to offer. Disputifier covers a lot more metadata than what Shopify has to offer. And then Disputifier also leverages the millions of other stores that are within that network to be able to get you a better fraud rating, or a better judgment on whether something is fraud or not fraud. And not only are you able to use the auto refund feature for fraud protection, but on the other hand, if you decide on turning that auto refund feature off, you could do that as well. Shipping updates is also something where Disputifier is able to scan every single order in your store, and actually scan those for any irregularities that come up. Maybe shipping delays, maybe something that's not completely, that's not delivered, or you have the odd delivered and not received scenarios. Disputifier is able to pick those up and not only notify your customers based on this, but we're also able to notify you, so you could reach out to your supplier, reach out to your manufacturer, reach out to your shipping department and say, hey, what's going on, let's go ahead and improve on this, to help reduce chargebacks in the first place. So the goal is not obviously to charge you for chargeback alerts coming in, because yes, that's how Disputifier would obviously make money. But the goal here is to eliminate any chargeback from coming in the first place and safeguard your interest, lowering your cost overall, right? So in this situation, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and select just chargeback alerts and not fraud protection. But these are features that you could obviously turn on in the app. And as I go into the app on this onboarding call, I'll be able to actually show you where you could do that and how you could gauge that better. So just chargeback alerts, and I click continue. So with chargeback alerts, there's three alert forms: Ethica, RDR, and CDR. So RDR and CDR are owned by Visa. RDR covers around 90 to 95% of Visa chargebacks before they become chargebacks. CDR is also owned by Visa. You're looking at about 60% of coverage for all major card brands. That can be done. And then you've got Ethica, that is a MasterCard owned product, but it covers about 85% of all major card brands across the board, right? The enrollment takes about 48 hours for Ethica and 48 hours for CDRN, whereas RDR may take up to 72 hours. In general, you're looking at about a week to go live with RDR, right? So by default, we actually have just these two selected. And the reason why we select both of these, or these are selected by default, is because most merchants would obviously use these services more frequently as compared to CDR. And this is typical for merchants that are not experiencing very many chargeback issues. And their goal here is to maintain that chargeback ratio and possibly reduce that to a certain extent. But on the other hand, if you're a merchant that's got, pretty serious chargeback issues, right? You can actually see just by these two, your estimated alert coverage is around 85%. If you decide on selecting that, you're looking at another 5% increase of coverage overall. So what I'm doing is I'm actually selecting all three of these. Click on continue. Here's where the part this part actually becomes a little bit complex because not very many people are aware of what their billing descriptor is, or similarly, not very many people have actually heard of the term ARN. So an ARN is an acquirer reference number, which is basically shows up on every single refund. So whenever you process a refund, about 2 to 3 days after that, within your Shopify, within any other payment processor, you should essentially be able to see an ARN number that shows up. So what the purpose this serves is that if I was to reach out to you, say 15 days after you've processed a refund for me, I would actually you can actually send me an ARN number from your processor for me to be able to send that over to my bank and verify whether that refund has come through or not come through, right? Or if there's any delays on that refund process on the banking side of things, I'd be able to actually hold the bank accountable. Your billing descriptor is basically what shows up on your customer statement when they place an order with you, right? So there's a couple of help articles that you can leverage here. These help articles are relevant to just Shopify and Stripe because those two platforms have them easily visible in Shopify and in Stripe for both the billing descriptor and the ARN. However, if you're using something that's a little bit more non-conventional, so if you're using, say, AirWallet, for instance, or if you're using Authorize.net, in that situation, you can actually reach out to their support team and have them send you an ARN number. If you're in a very, very new store that's got no refunds, that's got no transactions at the moment, your billing descriptor is obviously available. But on the other hand, your ARN will not be available at that point in time. What you could possibly do is you could actually create a test order for yourself. When I say test order, that means an actual order with a Visa card. Give it a couple of days and then refund that order. And then, within the next couple of days, you should actually be able to see an ARN available there. 3 to 4 are recommended, but 1 is sufficient if it's from a refund within the last 60 days. If for any reason you don't have a Visa card available, but you've got a few transactions in your store, you can actually go ahead and refund $1 from one of those Visa transactions, and 2 to 3 days later, you should actually see the ARN number available, in that. So what I'm going to do here is, for any reason, if you're not comfortable with doing that as well, you could obviously just add in your billing descriptor. So I'm going to put in test here. And I'm going to leave this section blank, and I can actually go ahead in the app later on and put in my billing descriptor of my ARN at that point in time. A quick point of note here is that it is essential for every merchant, and this is whether you're with Disputifier, whether you're not with Disputifier, it's essential for every merchant to actually have a very, very unique billing descriptor, right? And the reason why that is required is because it's easier for customers to identify where exactly they place the order, what exactly is going on with that transaction, and it just helps with the overall customer experience. But when you're looking at the alert side of things, if you've got an extremely generic billing descriptor, right? So say for instance, my billing descriptor is Nike, right? Now we all know that there's multiple different Nike stores around there, apart from the big one. But this could be a very, very common sort of a name. Or, if I was to use, say, let's say Lumen, for instance, right? Now, Lumen is obviously a very, very common name. I've seen multiple different stores that use this name as well. So if I was to use this billing descriptor and I was to go ahead and proceed with alert enrollment, what's going to happen is, because Ethica and CDR are enrolled based on your billing descriptor, you're going to be looking at a lot of alerts that come in that might not be even relevant to your store, right? Disputifier obviously will go ahead and credit you for those alerts, but that's not going to be beneficial to you in any way. So what I would do is, if my store is, say, Lumen Fashion, right? If it's a fashion store, or if it's like an apparel store, what I would probably do is I would change this to Lumen Apparel, right? Or I would make sure that it's set to Lumen Fashion, right? I would not add in any spaces in between. I would not add in any dots in here. or anything else of that sort, I would change that to Lumen Fashion, right? Or something that's a little bit more jazzy, maybe something, I could that identifies my store better. So I would probably do Lumen Unique Fashion, or I would change it to Lumen Street Fashion or Streetwear, for instance, right? And this would obviously be changed first in your processor, which would be either Shopify, Stripe, or any other processor. You need to change that first there, and then you go ahead and enroll that within this. So any transactions that are placed under this descriptor would automatically get caught, right? So again, test is what I'm going to use. And then once that's there, I don't have an ARN at the moment. I'm not looking to place an order at the moment. I don't have any transactions because it's a new store. So I'm going to leave this blank, and I'm going to click on continue. Once I click on continue, right, it would actually take me to this page where I would actually need to approve um, card charges. Now, obviously, at this point in time, I'm not a paying Shopify customer, so I would not be approving anything. I don't have the capability to approve anything of that sort. Um, but what I'm going to do is I will actually continue this video and show you the demo store in Disputifier on what we can do there.